Crime, mass surveillance, a police force utterly uninterested in helping its citizens. But enough about Britain in 2025, let's talk about a film instead, an excellent film, one that sits comfortably in my personal top 5 films ever made. And that film is the 2018 sci-fi cyberpunk film Upgrade, directed by Leigh Whannel. The year is 2046, and Gray Trace, a mechanic, lives with his wife Asher in their high-tech, AI-powered smart house. We first meet him when he's working on a classic car in his garage. Compared to the rest of the house, the garage is rather low-tech and normal-looking upon first glance. But this first scene is one rich with symbolism. The garage is an outward portrayal of Gray's state of mind and personal preferences. It's entirely analog and low-tech. It's a space replete with traditional handheld tools. He is hands-on, a doer, a builder, very masculine. Gray Trace is an interesting name, by the way. Trace as in track, track as in surveillance. We'll come to that shortly. His preferred medium for listening to music seems to be the LP. He has an old record player and a small stack of about 6 LPs sat next to it on his workbench. The one on top is quite an interesting piece of set dressing. While it's partially obscured by an old rag, the words alert, don't, and remastered are all visible. This gives the audience a subtle indication or a warning of what's to come. The word remastered is something I will come back to later on, but the words alert and don't can be looked at more closely now. Alert can be taken as a strong caution meant for Gray in that he should remain alert to the intentions of a very wealthy individual he has dealings with later on in the film, who we'll get to soon. Don't indicates an upcoming choice that Gray is going to be forced to make later on in the film. It's almost as if the old world, the analog world, is pleading with him to not venture any further into the new digital world that he finds himself a part of. The colour red is the only one to appear on the album cover alongside the black and white of the cover's text. Red is, in the Western world, traditionally seen as a colour representing anger, rage and violence. It's the colour of blood, after all. This is interesting because this album cover matches the majority of the film's promotional material and the film's DVD and Blu-ray covers in its colour scheme. It does not, however, appear to be a real album, or at least not one that I can find. If it is, however, please let me know in the comments. Also, as a quick aside, and what is probably a bit of a stretch on my part, the first letters of alert, don't, and remastered put together form the acronym ADR, which in the context of law means Alternative Dispute Resolution. This refers to the method of resolving disputes outside of a court of law. A big theme in this film, which we'll get to soon, is Gray pursuing his own form of justice, settling his own disputes outside of official channels like the police. The deal he makes with the previously mentioned wealthy individual is also done unofficially, away from the prying eyes of the American Medical Association. It's all done off the books, under the table, ADR. If all you were given to watch of Upgrade was this scene, then you'd have absolutely no idea that it was set, at the time of recording this video, about 21 years in the future. It looks like it could be set anywhere between the 1970s to the present day. It's a small place in Gray's world that can remain timeless, a place where the outside world, the technocratic, digitized world, can't intrude upon his life. This piece is not to last, however. He manages to get the car started, and he says to it, out loud, "I love you." He loves things that can be brought back to life through manual work, through getting his hands dirty. He respects machinery in its hard, mechanical form. He then leaves his garage, his own private world, and walks outside to greet his wife Asher, who is returning home from work in what is, compared to the beautiful Pontiac Firebird he was just working on, a blocky, tank-like monstrosity. It's a self-driving car, a car that does everything for you and will take you wherever you need to go via voice command. Not Gray's style at all, but sadly for him, this is the world he lives in. As she approaches, he looks at his watch, which is of course of the analog variety. He doesn't even wear a digital watch. As they walk into the house's main living area, the house begins to speak to Asher. It starts her evening playlist automatically, gives her a rundown of the domestic situation, the indoor temperature, the energy wall charge level, and that they're out of eggs. They talk about what to have for dinner. Asher asks if they should print a pizza, to which Gray immediately retorts, "Wanna make a pizza?" Asher looks unsure and says that doing so sounds like a lot of work. We can see here quite a big and fundamental difference between the two characters straight away. Gray wants to make what he needs, while Asher wants an automated process to print what she needs. It's interesting that these two characters should have met, fallen in love, and gotten married, but then again, they do say that opposites attract. The car he was working on before is all done, he says, and it needs to be dropped off at the client's house that night. He refuses to try and operate her self-driving vehicle himself and tells her he needs her to come along with him. He also says that she is really going to want to see this guy's house. We now get a briefer look at the wider world of Upgrade. The city they live just outside of is a mix of old, high-rise buildings from our time and before, and newer, taller, more futuristic-looking ones with odd kinks and shapes in their architecture. There also seems to be levels and platforms on and within them that contain foliage and greenery. Each new skyscraper has its own botanical garden, which must have been the style at the time that these buildings were designed and built. It's another small and subtle, yet extremely effective bit of world building. We also see a noticeable amount of drones patrolling the skies. Even high-tech, aspiring utopias must be closely monitored. Eventually, Gray and Asher reach the entrance to the wealthy individual's home. It's two large, henge-like stones that sit touching each other, and between them is a stairway to be walked down. We get a brief shot of the two large stones from further back, and to my mammalian human mind, they almost look like two living forms in loving embrace, the slightly smaller and more slender one leaning on the bigger one. Rocks, stones, and natural formations like these are, of course, very old. Not digital in any way, not technological, just raw and natural. I see this rocky arrangement as symbolic of how Gray sees his relationship with Asher. Just two natural beings overlooking the natural world, together forever. This entire environment is yet another part of Gray's psyche brought to life for us to see. They walk down the stairs into the wealthy individual's house. It is, like the newer skyscrapers we saw before, a mix of 2040s style and natural foliage. We finally meet the man himself, the one who Gray had been working for by fixing up his classic car, tech genius and billionaire Erin Keane, owner of Vessel Computers. Erin Keane is a very interesting character in and of himself, and is an archetype that is extremely relevant to us in the modern age. He's an amalgamation of the types of guys who play a monumental part in how our world is being shaped today, your Mark Zuckerbergs, your Elon Musks, etc. He's awkward, slightly off-kilter, but undoubtedly extremely intelligent. He's played excellently by Australian actor Harrison Gilbertson, who emphasises Erin's difficulty with social interaction and awkwardness, but always plays him with a subtle undercurrent of hesitation and reluctance, which becomes relevant later on. To me, his character represents what many of us today are grappling with. He is deeply embedded in the tech world and is propelling us forward into an overwhelmingly technocratic future, yet the need and desire for the natural, the authentic, remains in the background. It's a future that the majority of people don't really want, that at times even Erin seems not to really want, but we're being taken there anyway. Gray introduces Asher and Erin. Asher briefly tells him of her work at Cobalt, the company she works for. She states her belief that Cobalt is quickly catching up with Erin's Vessel Computers, but after a few moments, Erin tells her that no, they are in fact not getting close to what his company is actually doing. Another quick aside, the name Vessel for Erin's company is certainly an apt one. We'll come to that soon. He takes them to another room to show them what he has been doing. It's a chip, insect or arachnid-like in appearance. He describes it as his present and the rest of the world's future. It is called STEM. Erin asserts that it can do literally anything. It can drive anything, talk to anything, calculate anything. It's a new, better brain, according to him anyway. Gray immediately voices his skepticism and lack of approval. While Erin puts forward his view that STEM will do things that benefit society, Gray counters that all he sees when he looks at it is 10 guys on the unemployment line. Gray and Asher then make their way home in their self-driving car. It's interesting that all of the other cars on the road are much more ordinary looking. In fact, throughout the entire film, we only see 2 of these self-driving cars. This could indicate that it's only those who are quite well off who can afford this type of car. Or it could just be a company car given to high-ranking Cobalt employees. In the real world, it's probably due to budgetary and logistical reasons, but it's fun to think about the in-universe reasons for this. While driving along, Gray pulls on the steering wheel slightly, which emits a grinding, screeching noise. The onboard computer then reminds the passengers not to touch the steering wheel while the vehicle is in motion. You are not allowed to do anything for yourself, just let the system do it for you. What could go wrong? Shortly after this, the car begins to act strangely. It leaves the freeway and begins to take them through a bad neighbourhood, Gray's old neighbourhood, New Crown. Gray is concerned by this, but Asher, ever trustful in her automated lifestyle, believes that they are being taken a different way to avoid the traffic. She can't imagine anything ever going wrong with it. They instruct the car to take them back to the freeway, as they are now going in the exact opposite direction of their house, but the car keeps repeating the phrase, "I'm sorry, there has been an error." Despite their efforts to stop the car by voice command and manual override, it begins to speed up like a runaway train. Gray is able to get Asher's seatbelt on just in time before the car hits a barrier and flips over onto its roof next to a homeless shanty town. Gray is unable to get his seatbelt on in time, however, and he hits his head on the car's side window. The onboard AI notifies the emergency services. It is at this point that a car slowly pulls up behind them, and 4 men, dressed in dark clothing, emerge, pulling up their masks. A police drone then appears and monitors the situation until help can arrive. It looks as though Gray and Asher's crash is a part of some unknown, wider plan. They're pulled out of the upturned vehicle by the gang, who then hold them up. 2 guys hold Gray, 1 keeps watch, and the leader of the group, Fisk, speaks to Asher briefly. "You look at me and see a real piece of shit on your shoe, don't you?" Fisk is quite interesting and someone who I feel is deserving of a character study of his own. There's definitely a bit of an inferiority complex going on with him based on this line and some others that he has later on in the film. Please support the BewareCast on Patreon by heading to the link in the description. Every penny helps and is very much appreciated. Thank you. I will now at this point be going into serious spoiler territory, so if you haven't seen Upgrade yet, I would strongly recommend stopping this video right now and going off and watching the film. I repeat, if you don't want this film spoiled for you, stop this video right now and go and experience it for yourself, because it really is an excellent film and I want as many people as possible to go and see it for themselves and not have it ruined by a YouTube video like this one. So yes, you have been warned. Go and watch Upgrade now if you haven't yet seen it. After a few brief words, Fisk shoots Asher, and during the struggle with the murderous gang, Gray is tased and rendered paralysed. What's interesting here is that immediately after Asher is shot and she falls to the ground, we can see here that Fisk isn't holding a weapon of any kind. This shot is here on purpose and isn't a mistake or a goof or anything. This will be explained later on, but it's just one of a number of things that you'll notice when re-watching it for the 2nd or 3rd time. Fisk and his gang steal Gray's ring and walk away, leaving him to try and comfort Asher while she bleeds out. Sadly, the police and ambulance do not arrive in time, and she passes away from her injuries. We next see Gray in the hospital, paralysed and hooked up to a breathing machine. This is another indicator of what's to come for Gray, man and machine as one. 3 months later, he is back home, but confined to a wheelchair. He is accompanied by his mother and a nurse. The nurse tells him that everything that's installed just allows you to live a more normal life. Voice-controlled robotic arms throughout his house that will take on the bulk of his domestic needs. Not normal at all for Gray. A man who was used to working with his hands, someone who really didn't like digital technology at all, now completely at its mercy. When he's alone, the house AI, unprompted, asks if he is still there, if he would like something for dinner, and if Asher will be joining quote-unquote us. At the police station later on, he and his mother meet with Detective Cortez to discuss the ongoing investigation into Asher's murder and Gray's assault. It looks more like a mass surveillance unit than a genuine police station, with screens on every desk showing digital maps of the city. This isn't a place where they investigate crimes, this is a place where they monitor citizens and their activities. Cortez says that they haven't made any real progress in the investigation. She tries to be personable, act as if she's some sort of real cop who doesn't use drones and prefers face-to-face interaction, banging on doors, etc. Gray sees through it immediately, however, and demands she get straight to the point. What Gray says here is particularly important and absolutely rings true when you think about our modern police and their methods. So what you're saying is you have all these things flying above our heads that can read the ID chips in our fillings, but don't actually do anything. This reminds me of a real-life example that I know of. On YouTube there is a creator whose channel is called Mr. H Reviews, and a few months back, while he was in London, England, his car, a high-end Lexus that he had spent years saving up for, was stolen. When he reported it to the Metropolitan Police, they did virtually nothing. They asked him if there was any glass on the ground at the scene. He said no, and then the case was closed following their quote-unquote investigation. He was told that they couldn't do anything about it. London is the second most surveilled city on planet Earth, after some city in communist China that I can't remember the name of. It has, at the time of recording this video and according to a quick Google search, 942,562 CCTV cameras throughout the entire city. That's 1,552 per square mile, and that number is undoubtedly growing day by day. So, in the second most surveilled city on planet Earth, with cameras on virtually every street corner, they couldn't solve a simple car theft. So what's the point in all the cameras? It's not to solve crimes, it's to monitor you. Moving on. Such are the depths of despair that Gray has plummeted into that he attempts to take his own life. He instructs the robot arm in his kitchen to repeatedly administer his PM medicine, which it does several times before he passes out. The house calls for an ambulance. He awakens in the hospital and a masked figure walks in. It's Erin Keane from before. Erin talks briefly with him and eventually convinces him to try something radical, something not entirely legal, but which could bring him back to his former self. Erin proposes that STEM, the chip that Gray was shown months before, be implanted into his body. It could bridge the gap between his brain and his limbs that was severed in the attack. Gray at first dismisses the offer, but changes his mind later on. Quite a hard decision for someone with technophobic leanings like Gray, but if it enables him to get his life back, which Asher would want for him, then so be it. And it is now that I will briefly revisit the record cover that we saw at the beginning of the film. After the word alert, which is there to tell Gray to be on his guard around those he meets, don't, meaning don't undergo the changes proposed, the word remastered here can be seen as what will eventually be happening to Gray. He will be made stronger and more agile than he was before, but there will be serious costs. We see during his operation that the surgeons themselves have eye implants. A voiceover by Erin during this sequence tells us that an implant has never been asked to take on so much before. From this, we can gather that the implants the surgeons have are probably now standard across the field as a way to help them visualize how the operation is proceeding. They may have other implants too, there to help them do their work more safely and efficiently. When this is done, Gray wakes up in his wheelchair and finds that he is able to move his finger. He then manages to shakily lift up his right arm, then his left. Erin tells him to try to stand, which with some effort he is able to do. He has his mobility back. Gray is instructed by Erin to keep the procedure a secret. This is all being done unofficially, as Erin didn't want to wait for approval before moving forward. Now that he is able to walk again, we can see that his movements are noticeably more robotic than they were before. He is not quite as human as he used to be. After receiving a box filled with information on Asher's murder case from Detective Cortez, he quickly goes through it and then re-watches the police drone footage. We can assume that he has replayed this footage again and again over the past few months. He wants justice for Asher. He goes and pours himself another drink, and it is here that a certain presence makes itself known. He hears a voice in his head which asks him, "May I point something out?" This understandably startles and disturbs Gray to the point that he begins to question his sanity. But then the voice tells him who he is. It's STEM, the chip that was implanted into Gray's spine. It can talk. Only Gray can hear STEM, however, as it sends sound waves directly to his eardrums. After a brief chat, STEM points out in the drone surveillance footage that Asher's killer is not holding a gun, as we saw earlier. He actually shot her using a gun that was implanted in his hand. STEM is also able to detect a tattoo on one of his assailant's wrists. It's a military tattoo, a sort of futuristic QR code type of thing. STEM, when given permission, can take over Gray's body and movements. Using this ability, he is able to recreate the tattoo using a pen and paper, and the way this is done is very cool. Gray's hand becomes like a printer. It's a really good effect. STEM then instructs Gray to hold the piece of paper up to his eye so that STEM can read it. He does, giving all of the information of the tattoo wearer to him. Upon learning this information, Gray first says that he should go to the police, but STEM tells him that this is not the right course of action. Gray could not have found all of this out by himself without STEM's help, and nobody is supposed to know about STEM as per Erin's instructions. As such, going to the police is not an option. But what Gray can do, however, is start to track down his attackers himself with STEM's assistance. They travel to the man with the tattoo's house, hoping to gather evidence to provide conclusive proof that he is one of the men that was there the night his wife was killed. Gray breaks into the house when the man, Cirque Brantner, leaves. In the home is what could probably be described as a smart table, which has a display on the top. Looking through this, they find several references to something called Old Bones. STEM asks what this is, and Gray tells him it's a bar not far from where they are at the moment. STEM says he can't find anything about it online. I did notice in this sequence that STEM sounds ever so slightly disturbed by the fact that there was no online information about this place. The idea of something being completely offline is something STEM doesn't seem to like very much. There's a hint of mild panic in his voice. It's played in a very subtle way by the actor, but it's definitely there. Of interest here is the various medications and pills that are on the table. One could theorise that these are to help with symptoms of PTSD, given Cirque Brantner's military background. Just a theory, but it's a nice touch that adds a bit of personality to one of the film's minor characters. Gray and STEM are not in the house for long before Brantner returns home. Brantner was trained to fight in the military, and so Gray alone isn't really a match for him. He spots him attempting to hide in the corner, and he attacks. What follows from here is Gray's quest for revenge, undertaken with the assistance of STEM. With the help of this implanted AI, he is able to take on multiple people at once in a fight. Erin Keane is, of course, tracking everything that Gray gets up to. "You have a piece of my property inside of you, a very expensive piece of property. It's one that Erin doesn't intend to let out of his sight, even for a moment." He warns Gray against undertaking any further acts of violence or vigilantism, as if he continues to do so and Stem is discovered by the police, that would put an end to everything and Gray would be back in a wheelchair for life. Despite this warning, Gray continues to track down the criminals who killed Asher, all the while being tracked himself by Detective Cortez, who is beginning to suspect that all is not as it seems with Gray Trace. This part of the film is relatively straightforward, wonderfully shot and executed with great style, but there isn't a lot to really say about it on the symbolism side of things. Stem is able to help him with his hunting, and also to help him evade being hunted himself by the detective. Stem tells Gray that in order to avoid being tracked by Erin, they need to find an expert hacker who can implant a rootkit into Stem which will take away Erin's control. Stem had already found one on the dark web earlier on and insists they go and see her before Erin can shut them both down. Erin has started this process and Gray's limbs begin to cease working. When at the hacker's apartment, we see a number of people inside who are all wearing VR headsets. Addicts who find the real world too painful. There are, as you know, many who choose to lose themselves in various substances and activities like gaming today, rather than face the real world. If VR ever were to become a serious, widespread thing, you can bet that there will be those who choose to stay in it 24/7, hooked up to feeding bags like coma patients. It's basically a guarantee. By this point, Gray and Stem have taken out 2 of the 4 men who were present at Asher's murder, and the other 2, Fisk Brantner and Tolan, are in pursuit of him. When they reach the apartment, Tolan rips the mask off of one of the VR addicts and tells him to wake up. These people do indeed need to wake up and face reality, painful though it may be. No good ever came from running away from your problems. With Fisk and Tolan almost upon him, he sees a vision of Asher standing in the corner of the room. This we'll come back to later on. Giving control of his body to Stem again, he is able to easily outmaneuver them. He's pursued to the roof by Tolan, who Stem is able to easily overpower and then dispatch. Now, there is only Fisk left. Gray returns home, as he hasn't slept in 2 days. However, when he walks into the house, his mother is there. The cat is now out of the bag. He has no choice but to tell her of the operation and of Stem bringing another person into his web of secrets. Detective Cortez has become even more suspicious of Gray after his wheelchair is found near the site of another killing. She pays him a visit and covertly bugs his home with an analog listening device. She catches Gray seemingly talking to himself, as she is currently unaware of Stem's existence. Gray is beginning to have serious doubts about what they've been doing and tells Stem that it needs to stop. A brief argument ensues, with Gray telling Stem to get the fuck out of his head, at which point his body goes limp and he falls back onto the bed. Gray asks Stem what he's doing and the AI replies, "I'm not doing anything." Gray asks why he can't move. "Because I'm not doing anything," is the response. Stem tells him that remove input guards were the instructions given to the hacker. She did exactly what she was asked to do. Inputting this command took Gray and Stem off-grid, but it also gave Stem full autonomy. It no longer needs Gray's permission to act. Stem convinces Gray that they must find and kill Fisk before Fisk finds and kills them first. They head out to do this, but are being trailed by Detective Cortez. She is driving a non-digitized car, and so Stem cannot do anything to it. He can, however, take control of any self-driving cars in the immediate vicinity. It spots one. The car then comes to a halt in the middle of the freeway, then slams into reverse, eventually colliding with Cortez's vehicle, throwing her off of their trail. Gray and Stem eventually make it to Fisk's house, where a fight ensues. Stem has difficulty countering Fisk's movements, as Fisk is also greatly enhanced with cybernetics. Fisk tries to get Grey to join him and be a part of the new superior race of humans that he belongs to, augmented humans. This strong desire within Fisk to be superior is yet more evidence for feelings of deep inferiority on his part. He's ex-military, and yet he's not the biggest or strongest guy around, quite diminutive in fact. The actor who plays him, Benedict Hardy, is only 5 feet 8 inches tall. There's a bit of a Napoleon complex there, I think. Grey does eventually get the upper hand through some psychological manipulation, where he tells Fisk that his brother, Cirque, died in a cowardly and dishonourable fashion. This causes Fisk to become emotional and lash out, disregarding tactics. Grey kills Fisk and discovers a voice message on his phone from Erin Keane, telling him that Grey will be coming to kill the both of them. Okay, so even though I said at the start of the video and partway through the video as well that there were going to be major spoilers, I have opted at this point not to give away the ending of the film. So basically, it's because this film is really, really obscure. Even though it's a relatively recent film, not many people have seen it. And I was debating this. I wasn't sure whether to do a full overview and give away the ending of the film, or whether to just, try and obscure it somehow. And I couldn't really figure out how to do it. And what I eventually landed on was just not giving the ending away at all. So instead, I've opted to just give a bit more analysis of the film instead, in the form of an unscripted addition, like an addendum to the video. I didn't want to. I just don't feel right giving the ending away, and also I've had to rework the video a little bit because the copyright function in YouTube Studio kept flagging it up. I wasn't going to be able to monetize the video, so I've got no choice really as well as not wanting to give the ending away. I sort of can't give the ending away because apparently when you give away major plot points in films, if you make it a video about a film, that can flag it up as well. It's crazy the things it can do. It's just the AI that YouTube uses, I suppose. So we'll just talk a little bit more about Upgrade. I'll try and fill in some things that I forgot to mention in the scripted part of the video. But really I see it as a commentary on sort of activity versus passivity. So in the world that we live in now, and the world of Upgrade, which is about 20 odd years in the future from now, there's you've got the lone figure of Grey Trace, he is an active person. He's an active participant in life. He likes to fix things, he likes to build things, he likes to get his hands dirty. He likes to do things for himself. And he lives in a world where people like to have things done for them. And this is most obvious in the character of his wife, Asha. She wants a system that'll do everything for her. She wants an automated system to take care of all of the basic needs, so that she can focus on what she perceives to be the more important things like work, I suppose. And this is well illustrated in an early scene where they're just talking about something as mundane as dinner. And she says, "Shall we print a pizza?" He counters with, "Shall we make a pizza?" That's the fundamental difference. And we live in a world today where more and more things are becoming automated. More and more things are just becoming simpler to, supposedly to free people up from mundane things so that they can focus on more important things. Things like getting your food delivered to you. There are people out there, they use services like in this country we have Just Eat, we have Deliveroo, and Food Hub. I think Food Hub is another delivery one. In America, you've got Just Eat as well, I think. Or do you have Deliveroo? You've got services where you order on the app, it brings your food to you, and that's it, what exactly is it freeing people's time up for? Is it just to watch Netflix, just to stream content online? It seems like a lot of people who do that sort of thing, they don't really have higher things to focus on. A lot of the time, I think it's just laziness, to be honest. But that appeals to people because human beings are inherently lazy. That we're hardworking at times, but it's perfectly natural for human beings and for any living thing, really, to want to try and expend as little energy as they possibly can. That's just natural. You've got to conserve energy out in the wild. You need to do that. It's interesting that there are still people who want to break away from ease and convenience and things like that. I'd like to say that I'm one of them, but I'm not always one of them. Sometimes I'm like that. Sometimes. But, it's a world that's increasingly being catered towards that need for, keeping things as easy as possible. But you lose something when you do that. Because it is an extremely fulfilling experience, making your own meals, working on your own car if you're into working on vehicles and stuff like that. I'm not really a car guy myself, but there is something, I've talked before on my live streams about how my fiance and I, we moved into a house a couple of years ago. And before then, I'd never done really any DIY stuff at all. But since being here, I've had no choice. If I don't do it, it's not going to get done. So I've been doing things like putting up shelves, painting, all kinds of stuff like that. I've been filling in like grout and just little things like that. I can't do electric, so I'm not an electrician or a plumber or anything like that. But the basic stuff I can do. I put in, because we live in an old house in England, so damp in the walls is a problem. So I've had to install damp proofing rods and stuff like that. It means learning how to use a drill. I've got a big SDS drill that I've used for that. But there is something deeply and inherently fulfilling in doing things for yourself. And the modern world and the world of upgrade is taking that away from people. But then it's the funny thing of a lot of people, they'd rather not do it anyway. So it's a funny thing. So that's why I see the film as being like I said before, a commentary on the active, being active versus being passive. And Grey is the active character, Asher is the passive character. And we kind of see where that gets her in the end. Not wanting to spoil too much and not wanting to spoil anything about the ending at all. It's a brilliant film. It's in my top 5, my absolute top 5 films ever made. Upgrade is in there. I don't really have an order for those films, but it's within the top 5. It's nestled snugly in there. I do hope that after watching this video, you will go out and you'll find Upgrade. I've got it on DVD. Got it right here because physical media again, that goes into the active versus passive. It's very easy to sit down, find a film on a streaming service and watch it, consume it, as they say these days. But that's the passive way of doing it. The active way of doing it is to seek it out and have a physical thing for yourself, which you can watch at any time. It can't be taken down. You can't think, I'm going to watch Upgrade, but then you go to, I don't know, Amazon Prime or Netflix or wherever it is, if it's on any of those, and it's not there anymore. That sucks. That's happened to me a few times because I'm talking smack about streaming services, but I do have Netflix. I use it occasionally, just to find something to put on in the background or whatever. Or if me and the fiancé, we want to watch a film, just chill out and relax, we'll find something on there. But the active thing is to find DVDs and Blu-rays, and then you've got it. You can watch it whenever you like. So yeah, it's a really interesting film. I really hope that this video encourages you to find it in whichever way. Even if you do find it on a streaming service, I'm not going to judge. Like I said before, I use streaming services myself, Netflix mainly. But I hope that this video gets you to find it and watch it. It's a brilliant film. It's one of those rare, it's extremely rare that the modern age produces, a film that really, it really spoke to me personally. There's a lot in there. It's commentary on things. It seems like the natural conclusion, or not the natural conclusion, but a natural next step, shall we say, from our world to, this is probably what's coming next. If you went back 10 years and tried to tell people about ChatGPT, they wouldn't believe you. They'd think that's something out of a science fiction film, but it's here. So this film being set in 20 years, something like STEM could really could be in our existence in the real world, and something that we'd have to contend with in the future. Anyway, I'll get back to the last bit of the scripted video. Thanks for bearing with me. I didn't want to spoil the ending for anyone. Yeah. Alright, cheers. I would also be remiss if I didn't mention something I really like about the beginning of the film too. The intro, where you would normally see a string of production company logos, is done rather differently in Upgrade, as it's all spoken by a computerized female voice. The voice lists the names of all these companies and then the title of the film over some computerized visuals. Even though it's a relatively minor touch, it's still a great experience to actually witness something truly original in a modern film. I've never seen that done before. I would say that Upgrade is quite possibly one of the most technophobic films I've ever seen. Everything related to technology here is shown to either go wrong, be hostile, be useless, or detrimental in some way. The police surveillance drones are shown to be very little help at all in serious situations and are only there to spy on people. The VR headsets are shown to be the drug of choice for no-hopers who can't stand living in the real world. The self-driving cars are easily taken over by STEM. Now, there is a lot more that could be said about Upgrade, as it's a film rich with symbolism, but in the interest of time, I'll leave this one here for now. But not before quickly touching on the potential sequel that is mentioned briefly on Upgrade's Wikipedia page. It's apparently going to be taking the form of a television series, quote, set a few years after the events of the film, with an evolved version of STEM and new host, with the government using STEM as a way to curb criminal activity. And to this, I say, no, do not make this sequel. Don't make any sequel to this film, but especially not this one. It goes completely against the themes of the first film. It takes away STEM's autonomy if you're making it work for the government. The fear of technocracy will undoubtedly be replaced by a new, safer theme of let the government take care of you with technology. I do not want this at all, and I sincerely hope they do not end up making it. Anyway, that's all for now. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, then please support me on Patreon. The link is in the description. Every penny helps and is very much appreciated. The link is in the description. This has been the BewareCast, and I will catch you in the next video. Take care.